difficulties.
Just life, just difficult.
That's how it works.
Ever used it?
No, actually, I have not personally. Yeah. So, anyways, what was I going to say? Right. So, I'm not sure if it's okay if you don't want to discuss this in depth, but I was wondering what your personal stance on the issue would be. So, like, in your personal opinion, what would be the best way for the council to address this?
Yeah. So I think because of all the, the example I just mentioned, right? Is the height, the parapet, the antenna? Is it people standing? Is it the, solar panels on top? Is it the canopy, shading the people? What should be defined as what the point of measurement should be, right?
Okay.
And so I think that's what has to happen. So it has to be kind of a robust conversation on this in terms of what does the limits mean? Okay.
So then that, in your opinion, would be the biggest concern is to have a consistent law. Well, not law, but like a consistent standard to address stuff like this.
Yeah, because I think the problem that staff has, it's kind of, first of all, rooftop ducks are very rare, right? It's not like you go to some places and rooftop decks are like everywhere, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's not Palo Alto, right? I mean, we don't have that many.
Right.
And so when they do come up, staff is kind of at a loss as to what to do with it.
I see.
Because it's just not a clear standard.
Mm-hmm.
Just because it's not a common occurrence.
Right. So then looking forward, do you think that it's going to become, so you mentioned something about the current case being a precedent, right? Do you believe that this is going to become more of a recurring issue in the future?
Well, I think the main issue is that in Palo Alto, land is very scarce, right? It's very expensive, and we're not getting more land, right? We can't get more land from the Bay necessarily, so we have the land that we have, and I think what's driving rooftop decks, because they are much more expensive than just having a regular roof, is scarcity of land, right? And so, on one hand, you want to make sure you have some open space and green space, right? On the other hand, land is very scarce. And so what rooftop decks tend to do, have you ever been to the California Museum of Science?
Not recently.
Oh, but like you've been there before?
Yes.
Okay, you know how they have that green roof?
Yes.
You walk on that, it looks almost like a hill or something?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like that, right? So they're, in that case, they actually have more land, right? Because it's a big area. But what they're trying to do is they're trying to provide that kind of open space, right? Even though there's a building there, right? And so I think that's the main driver for this, is trying to, provide that kind of open space. A lot of rooftop decks, they tend to be green as well, so they tend to like have trees or grass or whatever up on there, right? And so that will, because land is so scarce, sometimes you don't have space to do all that stuff, so you can do it on the roof, and so it kind of makes things more ecologically friendly, it makes the building cooler, but it's a lot more expensive. So, to do that, there has to be a really strong driver for it.
Okay, there has to be a really strong driver for it.
Greg, so we have 5 minutes left.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So then, with regards to the complaints about rooftop decks, that there are privacy concerns, there's noise and light pollution, parking concerns.
I think it's parking concerns.
You don't think, or you do?
I don't think so. Because I haven't seen any proposal to park on top of the roof.
Okay. So, like, how do you believe that how important do you believe these concerns are? Well, that's not a good way to word it. It's not how important, but how significant are these concerns? Do you believe that they outweigh the benefits that rooftop decks have, or no?
I think it's a really case-by-case basis, right? I think, if you're like in the middle of a downtown area, not near a lot of other residential properties, especially R1, it's probably not as big of a deal. If you're in the middle of a R1 neighborhood, maybe a bigger deal, but it depends on how it's situated and how the other projects are placed. So I think it's really a case-by-case basis. I don't think there's a generic answer.
Like a kind of one-size-fits-all.
No, I don't think so, because it's kind of like, in Palo Alto, they have this idea of a second story. Individual review. To put in a second story in your house, you have to have an individual review, where they look on a case-by-case, where your windows are you looking to your neighbor's bathroom, stuff like that. So I think it's a little bit like that.
So then with
But the problem is that these are very rare. It doesn't happen very often, because it's so expensive that it's a lot less common than like basements. Right? Basements in Palo Alto are much more common than rooftop decks. Rooftop decks are kind of exceptional just because of the expense.
So okay, So with regards to the house case in particular, because that's in a downtown area, I'm assuming that.
Oh, houses in the downtown area. Yeah, there's not much R1
Okay.
at all.
Mm-hmm. So then let's talk about the long term. So right now, the council's main priority is to basically create a standard, right, for determining case by case which are okay, which aren't.
Yeah.
Is there anything that the council needs to do once it's moved beyond that step? Like, what's the next goal?
Well, if staff is able to get clear direction from council in terms of how this stuff should be handled, then they can actually make that as part of a like a guideline or handbook that they could give to developers when they're trying to do something. So this is generally what's approved, and this is generally what's not approved.
So a property developer's handbook,
or like homeowners or building owners, anyone's like so. So there's the actual hard ordinance, and then there's the kind of the more soft guidelines, right? Which is staff's interpretation of council's wishes, and then they give that to the people who are interested in developing a rooftop deck. So here's what's okay. This is what's okay. This is what's not okay.
Okay. Actually, I'd like to go back to a point you brought up earlier, which is that there have been cases like this before. I believe you said. Would you?
A Korean restaurant. This is before I was on council, but there's a Korean restaurant on University Avenue. It's right above the old Apple store.
Right. So, but are there any other cases where there were issues with zoning laws and like rooftop developments, like aside from?
I mean, there probably were, but I mean, in recent memory, those were the only two. So it's not like it's a very common thing. It's not like these happen every day.
Okay. So, yeah, I don't think there's much that I need to ask aside from that. Is there anything you wanted to add before we wrap this up?
Yeah. So, just out of curiosity, what do you cover at the newspaper?
Well, we're a features magazine actually.
Okay.
So then,
our magazine.
Yeah. So we have a news section, right? And so that's why I'm here is to cover the housing story. But also we have other sections. So there's a features section, right? Where we're at features store. We have profiles. That's where you're going to be doing interviews of individuals or organizations.
Yeah.
There's a media culture section, which is like food, pop culture, stuff like that, entertainment. And then also there's going to be a perspective section that's basically the op-ed. And then we do editorials. And I believe, yeah, that's pretty much the gist of what we do.
Can I make a recommendation for a story for you?
Actually, sure, go ahead.
Okay, so you're at Poly, right? Okay. So one of the big discussions is grade crossings for Caltrain. And so Churchill and Alma, right? But there's like a ton of, in the morning you see like a ton of
There's
bikes.
a ton of traffic.
Like,
I bike there every day. So.
Oh, you know that intersection?
Yeah.
Okay. So the question is, how do we do the grade crossing there? And it'd be a great story to kind of talk to your fellow classmates about.
I agree. That's
so.
I've heard like some discussion about a potential tunnel like underneath.
Yeah. That's what my office is pushing for.
Yep.
Yeah. But it'd be great to just hear what you're.
Maybe you can even consider interning for us. I mean, we're both high schoolers. We go to Gun. Sorry about that.
Yeah. So we're a little bit gun heavy here.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, I encourage you to apply if you're interested in doing this internship. It's a lot of fun. So if you have some free time,
I'll consider it. Okay.
Are you a junior?
I am a junior. Yes.
Guessed it. And do you want to take a picture of my do you want to take a picture of my contact information? So if you ever need to contact me, it's probably the best to contact me out of the three of us here.
Okay, sure. Yeah, let me do that real quick.
So let me just finish this video. Perfect.